Hello and welcome to a new video. In this one, I'll be converting this Hot Wheels Chevrolet pickup model into a form that looks futuristic yet with retro aesthetics. Let's get to the build. From the beginning, I had an idea to make this float in the air or hover just above the ground. So I had to get rid of the wheels. And in order to strip the paint, I had to separate the plastic parts. Using various drill bits, utility knife and of course plain brute force, I separated the parts. After roughly sanding the body, I dunked it into the paint stripper. The fumes are highly toxic, so make sure to either wear a chemical grade mask or ventilate the room you're in. After that, I cleaned up the stubborn spots with Dremel wire bits, tweezers and hobby knife to make sure there won't be any bumpy spots when I repaint this. I wanted this vehicle to look like it belongs in wastelands, so I added protection bars on its windscreen using armature wire. Added vertical bars to the sides of the cabin as well. Also, somehow there is almost never mirrors in Hot Wheels models, as far as I can tell. I made a pair with cardboard cuts and the same armature wire. Since this is going to hover, it replaces the wheels with some sort of a vertical propulsion system. I widened the mudguards using jewellery bits and pieces. I extended those areas. While thinking of how to finish those gaps, I switched my focus and added a pair of fuel tanks. They're actually resin printed barrels. I made a ton of those while I was practicing Blender, so I kind of improvised fitted those on the truck. I found a solution to cut a wooden jewelry bit to 4/4. Sanded off the excess to keep them to a 90 degrees angle as best as possible. Then glued them there. Went back on the other details while thinking about how to make the previous section better. Added leftover computer fan cables as hoses that come out of the barrels. I imagined them to contain some sort of fluid or semi-fluid fuel. At this point, I unwillingly decided to fill those previously mentioned sections with air drying clay. I said unwillingly because it's pretty hard to work with clay when you're replicating inorganic shapes that are supposed to look somewhat properly oriented. It takes a lot of sanding, fixing and such. Anyway, once the first layer dried, I covered them up with thinner clay pieces and worked my way down to cover them completely. Once those dried, I sanded off the uneven sides and got rid of the excess parts. After this, using Dremel carving bits, I cleaned off the CA glue gunk. From the start, I wanted this to have a closed box. I even kind of wanted to paint a U-Haul or FedEx logo on it to make it somewhat fun. Even though that would be fun, I'm not sure how accurate I would be to paint company logos on a very small surface. So I gave that idea up, or reserved it for later. But later, I found a piece of corrugated cardboard and it gave me an idea. Easy to cut and easy to peel, this was perfect material to cover the sides of the box. The corrugated form gives a great retro feel, also great to add rust and dirt detail later on during the painting. I also worked on door details, hinges, latches and bars to open the doors. Extended box section with a plastic bit reaching over the top of the cabin. And with scrap resin print supports, bits and pieces, I filled up the top side of the box. Added another cable detail up there because I think cable and hose details always look interesting. The exhaust pipes are on the model. I added a bumper using the skewer piece because exhaust pipes just didn't make any sense in this setting. And since there are parts blocking the way, I had to cut off a mudguard to fit this in later during the assembly. I dry fitted the pieces to take a look and see if there are anything else I could add. Okay, so in order for this to hover, I wanted to utilize two pairs of magnets directly facing each other from the bottom of the vehicle to the base. This clearly was a futile effort. It felt like a brilliant idea on the paper, but when it came to trying it, it was a waste of time. I wanted to include this waste of a time so you don't have to do the same. Turns out there's an actual item for this to constantly balance the opposing powers of the magnets or something like that. I'm not a magnet expert. I tried anchoring the vehicle with a transclear cotton bud shaft. It works questionably. I ended up questioning the existence of magnets with this. Even followed ChatGPT's idea to anchor this from multiple points using a fishing reel. Nope. Went back to one pair of magnets and two fishing reel anchors. Again, nope. It might work with anchoring it from four corners, but I want to try it on a larger model later. This just is too small for that. For this, I decided to only use the transclear cotton bud stick to lift it up from the ground. Anyway, like I said, I want to show my failure as well. Let me know what you think or know about this. Next, I started on working for the base. I cut off scrap plywood board, added frames around it to hide the ugly grain. Used air drying clay to create a surface. It's also a good idea to wet the surface before applying the clay on flat surfaces so it sticks better and easier. Once dried, I gave it a deeply cracked soil look using Dremel carving bits and files. After that, I applied one coat of primer and started painting it with various paints and powders. Applied brown wash and wiped off the excess. At this point, I improvised along the way. I didn't exactly know what sort of surface I wanted for this. Applied weathering powders and painted the frame of it with Vallejo wood grain. For some reason, I really love that paint. Once the IPA I sprayed dried, I realized I over-applied the weathering powder and decided to go over the cracks once more. And finally, I applied a diluted smoke and paint mixture to bind it off. With the base complete, I started on the vehicle's paint job. Primed it with Vallejo black primer with 2 coats. One coat wasn't enough due to the pickup's body material being metallic. With a friend's suggestion, I chose Vallejo's amaranth red to be its color of choice. Applied 3 or 4 thin coats with this. For the box, I wanted it to be grey, used London grey and darker lighter variations of it. Wanted the fuel tanks to look like they weren't factory made, instead added later on, so I painted them with black-red color. Applied rust here and there with a piece of a sponge. Painted the hoses with Vallejo rubber paint. Applied a dark red filter over the truck. Also applied metallic chipping here and there, wherever I saw fit. To bring up more depth, I applied watered down black red further to wherever a depth would be. Touched on the grille area with natural steel and painted the headlights with silver paint. finally painted the Chevy logo with flat yellow and completed majority of the paintwork. Knowing I wouldn't paint anymore for sure, I brought all the pieces of it together. Finally, applied various weathering powders to the bottom parts and finished the paint job. I installed the vehicle to its base, glued it with CA glue. While showing the bottom, I think I should mention how it's a great idea to add felts under the diorama bases. It looks and feels quite professional, especially for projects that are meant to be sold or given as a gift. Well, that's the end of it. I hope you liked it. Before you go, I'd like your ideas about what I should do with this next. Let me know what you think of this in the comments, like the video if you did, and subscribe if you haven't yet. Until next time, take care.